Just what were Blizzard thinking when they gave McCree this absolutely insane buff? All right, guys, so this is on the live servers. Hanzo, headshot, 250 damage. It will kill McCree. McCree's only got 200 HP here. Also note as well, 3 Storm Arrows kill McCree. 3. Only 3. That is the critical thing to remember. Now, of course, Hanzo's damage has been nerfed on Storm Arrows. McCree's got more HP. So we go over to the PTR. Again, headshot will kill McCree because it's 250 damage. This is the crucial thing, though. Look at that. You have to hit every single arrow in Storm Arrows to kill McCree. That is not going to happen. That is actually, it's just not going to happen. So this, guys, is a massive buff to McCree when it comes to fighting a Hanzo close range. I mean, that's crazy. Look at that. I mean, this is just me sort of simulating what would happen, right? You're not going to hit all of your arrows. It'd be very rare that you would hit all arrows in Storm Arrow on McCree. The other one that's interesting, though, is Doomfist. So that there wasn't a fully charged punch. McCree survived. He would have died on live there. However, a fully charged punch will kill him because that does 250 damage if it hits him and knocks him into a wall. So, again, a bit of a buff there to McCree against a hero that he's designed to be a counter. Again, this is in line with McCree being this anti-dive hero, which is clearly what Blizzard are trying to do with him. Okay, so the next thing is Deadeye. Now, you're going to watch me fail a couple of attempts of this because it isn't as simple as it's been made out to be. So you can now move when you're activating Deadeye. So you can lock Deadeye on, and provided you move fast enough and keep the targets in your field of view, you will keep firing. This means you can probably do some insane stuff with Deadeye, like you can quickly spin around. If a Genji was to jump, I think maybe I'll do it now. No, I failed again. But I will get it right in a second. But this is just showing you guys, this isn't stupidly easy to pull off. It's almost like a bit of McCree tech, a bit of McCree skill. It will separate the really bad McCrees from the really good ones. You can see there, I kind of got more than I was aiming at, but still I was spinning the camera a little bit too fast. But in a real world example, I feel like this is going to be really good when it comes to like locking onto a Genji and Genji dashes behind you. You can quickly turn around and blast him in the head. You couldn't do that on live because you simply couldn't spin like this, which you can now on the PTR. There's also a lot of other examples of this being used in the middle of a fight, I think, where... See, I got it right there. See, I killed loads of them there. That was actually, like, spicy there. I managed to do it. There is a code in the video description below if you guys want to check out this mode. It is awesome. It's made by Andy, the godfather of Irish Overwatch. Anyway, yeah, so I think this has got a lot of applications in the game because if you're in the middle of a fight and a Winston's jumping over your head or something like that, you can quickly spin around and shoot him. You're still going to be vulnerable because you're still standing there glowing like a Christmas tree going, it's high noon. So the big question is, what does this mean for the meta, and what the hell are Blizzard thinking? Well, it means that McCree is pretty good now. So these are McCree's changes. Obviously, Deadeye no longer locks the player's aim. Recovery time increased from 0.42 to 0.5 on primary fire. And of course, 50 extra HP, giving him 250 HP. Now, the primary fire nerf, because it is a nerf, guys, takes you back to patch buff McCree with fire rate in a way. So what you're watching here is live McCree. I am firing faster here than you fire on the PTR. On the PTR, it is much slower because it's going back to McCree before he got this machine gun McCree buff. And this is definitely a case of Blizzard removing power creep buffs from the game, which is only a good thing. And I honestly believe that going forward, future updates will probably target the amount of healing output on certain heroes that haven't been touched. Because think about it, Batista's touched in this patch. I mean, he's had his healing destroyed in a way. Moira's still pretty good, but she has been nerfed in previous patches. I think Moira is going to be probably pretty good now. I think Brig as well is going to be pretty good. But we might see a further reduction in that because nobody likes power creep because things start getting out of control. So anyway, yeah, the fire rate reduction means that you will do less damage to tanks and to barriers. Now, that's the key thing to remember here. You won't be able to pump out as much damage. The way I'm firing here, just literally, it won't be possible when the PTR buff goes live because you fire slower. I think the old McCree is actually better to play, even though my initial reaction was, oh my god, this doesn't feel great. It does. It feels like old McCree. The shots feel more meaningful. They feel more planted, more impactful. You get the beat, the rhythm of McCree, but of course, you've got the additional 50 HP, which means that you are way more tanky. So this begs the question, is double barrier dead with these Hanzo and McCree changes? Now, okay, let's take a look at this because it isn't necessarily about Hanzo and McCree. So McCree does less damage to barriers. Hanzo does less damage to barriers because this damage reduced from 70 to 60 per arrow in storm arrows, which means that you do 50 less damage through the entire combo, which means you can't spam barriers as well as you could before. And remember, he had his projectile speed reduced in the previous patch to the way it used to be before it got buffed. So Hanzo puts out less effective DPS at range into barriers, but so does McCree. So why would this mean that barrier meta might be going the way of the dodo? Well, it's not necessarily about these changes to these two heroes, and we'll get onto those in a second when we get onto the tank segment of this video. But I want to just focus on Hanzo for a second, because the Hanzo change is the change Hanzo really needed. Because Storm Arrows was a very cheesy get out of jail, oh no, I'm being dove upon, or oh look, there's Tracer, or something like that. I'm just going to spam arrows at them and hopefully I will kill them. Again, this footage you guys are watching is from the live servers, simply because nobody plays on the PTR. As much as I'd like to play quick play on the PTR, you literally cannot do it. The only way to play on PTR is to make pre-made groups, which is an option, but just to get the sort of raw experience of the game, you can't do that on PTR, which is a major shame. So we're on live. This means that we've still got the old Storm Arrows. But if you watch this gameplay, there are still a lot of moments here where Hanzo is still effective. He's still doing what he needs to do. There, for example, yes, that was a buffed Storm Arrow going into the back of a Reinhardt. It wouldn't do as much damage, but he was already dead in that scenario anyway. The thing I want you guys to watch here, and you might have seen the kill on the Mercy, the kills on the Tracer and such, is like this here. That is not possible really now on PTR. It is and it isn't. You do less damage, so it's less reliable, so that gets rid of the sort of cheesy nature of this hero, where it very much was, oh no, I'm just going to pop Storm Arrows and randomly splurge them everywhere. I didn't like that. In a way, it's actually worse than Scatter Arrow used to be, because Scatter Arrow was not great. It was annoying when it bounced at your feet, but obviously it started to delete tanks. That was not great. Blizzard addressed that, changed the hero. Now the thing with Hanzo is he still retains his spam ability in some regards. So yeah, but this is definitely the nerf Hanzo needed. I still think he'll kind of be okay, but now he's more manageable. Okay, let's move on to the tank segment. So Orisa's changes, less damage from primary fire, cooldown increased on Fortify, halt snare duration reduced from 1 second to 0.65. Sigma, look at that, range reduced, gravitic flux can now be interrupted, impact slow duration reduced from 0.9 to 0.6, can be now interrupted before targets begin hitting the ground, and accretion damage reduction. This is Blizzard very much categorically stating they do not want these tanks in every game or at the level of power they're at. Now, I've got to throw out a disclaimer here, because they're not in every game. And this is very much like a ridiculous... You know, I've been guilty of this in the past, because you guys know, YouTubers, streamers, anybody with any kind of following in the Overwatch community, they'll talk about the meta, they'll talk about things that are happening. But there is one thing in common with all of these players. Universally, they all play at a Masters Plus level. They are not playing the game at Platinum. They are not playing the game at any level below that, simply because it is their day job. They play a lot of Overwatch. So what tends to happen is, when they start speaking about the meta, the direction it's going, and even like when I talk about this, it is sort of swayed with their personal experience. So it can be difficult at times to work out what's going on, work out whether these are good changes. Now, the Reaper change in this patch is definitely a good change, because it makes Reaper less effective. Of course, he's got less lifesteal, but actually, in terms of effective lifesteal, it means it's 25% less than it is on live, which also means that is reverted back to the state before it was buffed, which again shows you this is an anti-power creep change, which is good for the game, because it means things just don't go or stop getting out of control. You don't just keep piling numbers on to fix problems like, oh, a barrier's got 2000 HP, let's give DPS more damage numbers. That's not the way to fix it. And Blizzard are starting to address that now, which is cool. Anyway, to go back to these tanks, the Sigma and your Orisa, what is the deal with these tanks? Will they still be effective? Now, the changes Blizzard have made are... There is no doubt in my mind these have been made to reduce the power level of these heroes, which is obvious, right? They're nerfs. But why would Blizzard do it if these heroes are not necessarily played in every single game all of the time? It's because these heroes have been very oppressive. And what Blizzard have started to realize is they need to address the abilities that are causing the problem, but address them in a way that still gives the abilities some sort of use or makes them fun to use still. Now, Orisa's power lies in Fortify. It lies in the barrier as well. So they've reduced the rate or the amount of they've increased, sorry, the cooldown on Fortify, so you don't get it as much. But the big one with Orisa is they've increased or reduced the snare duration on Halt. Now, Halt is where Orisa's skill lies. Now, think about a Halt as an ability. This is something you can use to just kill the enemy. You can pull people above barriers. You can pull people out for hooks. You can pull people environmental kills. In fact, it's more difficult to get environmental kills now because the snare doesn't last as long, so they can react quicker. These are good changes because these are elements of the game that I don't think anybody particularly liked, and they get changed and they get fixed. But Blizzard also make additional changes. So let's reduce the damage output of Orisa. And again, guys, this footage is live Orisa. It's not from PTR. Reducing the damage output means less spam into barriers, which in paper should mean barriers are more effective. But because the two culprits of double barrier meta are basically gutted on the PTR, especially Sigma, I think we're going to see less of those heroes. Now, is this a good way for Blizzard to balance? Yeah, I think it is, right? There's a lot of discussion out there on should Blizzard be making changes more often, which clearly they seem to be doing now. We've had 2 major changes on PTR. That's an unlucky Earthshatter as well. There's been 2 major changes on PTR, which have clearly Blizzard are saying, look, we're changing the game, and we're going to try and change the game quicker. The first changes were not that great. The current changes we've got on PTR, well, they were great changes, but they were not like massive, oh my god, what are these? The changes now on PTR, like, let's just buff McCree. A lot of people are thinking, why? Well, it's going to make McCree meta, but what's that going to do to the rest of the game? Well, we're going to have to wait and see, right? Should they have nerfed Doomfist as much as they have if they knew they were going to buff McCree? How do Blizzard plan these buffs and nerfs? Are they just doing it like on a case-by-case basis? So they're like, okay, we're just going to do these changes now and see what happens. Or we've got these planned, so we're going to make... We just don't know. But it makes the game more dynamic, and it makes the game more interesting, arguably, for people to play. Unfortunately, this game I'm in here, where you can see that people have just given up, which is unfortunate. So that's kind of like a lesson to learn. A lot of people out there think if you keep going through the ranks, the game gets better. It just stays the same. Like, I mean, what is this? It's Master GM plays in this, whatever. Like, it's just a mess, this game is. Anyway, I think we're going into an interesting period here with Overwatch. It's definitely going to be a lot of McCree we're going to see. Sigma and Orisa usage will drop off. This means we'll see more Reinhardt. Batista's been nerfed as well. That means we're probably going to see a lot more Moira because she is now the primary healer. But also, I think we're going to see a bit of Brig. And there might actually be a video on Brig. I don't want to promise anything. But I think Brig is really, more so now than ever, a bit of a sleeper support. She does a lot of healing, you know, if you count armor as healing. Anyway, I'll catch you guys on the next video.